What's up, West Coast Swing dancers? In this video, I'm going to give you a roadmap for West Coast Swing from beginner to pro, the patterns that matter, the techniques you should focus on, and the mistakes that Miss Megan thinks you're likely to make. My name is Brian.
I'm Miss Megan.
All right, so we're going to start with the beginner, then we'll go to intermediate, then we'll kind of go to advanced. But for beginners, the patterns you should focus on are the basics, right? The way I want you to think about this, though, is there might be 6, 7, 8, 9 basic patterns that you'll learn depending upon who your teacher is, which class. But think of 3 basic buckets of patterns. Your pushes, anything that's a push, sugar push, push break, anything push. Even this, a sugar tuck, is still a push pattern, right? Something that's going up and back. Then we have our side passes. So even though we have 2 different kinds of left side pass, we have a left side pass, and then we have a right side pass, also called the underarm turn. That's the next bucket. So we have pushes, passes. The third one is our 8-count whips. That's the first one that goes to 8 counts. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I want you to bucket those moves in your brain. So that way when we expand out the patterns, they're based off of the 3 basics: push, passes, and whips. So other patterns you're going to need to know. If we have a sugar push, then we have a sugar tuck. So this is another pattern you'll want to know, a tuck away. You'll start to realize that when the hand goes over the top like that, that the right side pass is a good next move because of where your hand is. Then we get into, we talked about a left side pass. If I have a left side pass, then this tuck comes off of my left side pass, right? And even as we get to the intermediate level where we might do a tuck, it's still off of a left side pass, right? So we want to master the pushes, passes, tucks. The other one we have to learn is off of a left side pass, we have this inside turn, sometimes called an inside roll. So that leads us into, so those are the basic patterns. You want to drill those as much as possible. If you can manage to do this, this is what I do with my students, is we practice just a push, a right side pass, and a whip with no touching, just music on. If you can put this on and dance push, pass, and whip to music, it will level up your game. However, you're going to have to dance with a partner, so what's important next in terms of techniques that we need to focus on?
Leading and following, so connection.
What are the 2 types of connections, Miss Megan?
Towards and away until you get to intermediate.
Yep, there's fancy words for this. We just use simple words. Some sort of an away connection and some sort of a towards connection. So an easy drill is just to stand here and see if we can change quickly. If we can't change quickly and I pull Megan too much, you get this type of stuff. Or if we're in a away connection and we don't give a towards connection till the very end. So right here, see if you can get an away connection and a towards connection just by moving my body across my feet. Now in the intermediate section, we're going to talk about rolling through the feet, but I think as a beginner, you just want to be able to master this away connection and towards connection. Sugar push alone is difficult enough to practice both of those connections, or a left side pass where you're dealing with an away connection the whole time, or in a whip where we're basically staying away, but now I'm connected to my partner away, my hand to her body with only a little bit of thought to the arm, right? Third thing, or second concept or technique I think you should focus on as a beginner actually is the spins and turns. Megan's favorite thing to do in dancing, because you physically have to spin. So even though it's not the easiest technique, you're going to have to dance these turns in some of your basic patterns. So you want to master your turn technique. Can you give us a quick breakdown of the basic turn technique for an inside turn?
Yes, so for West Coast, you have your walk, walk. This first turn is called a chaîné turn, where you're going to close your feet, then you step, and then you have a pivot turn where you keep your feet wider, and then triple step.
So focusing on your lead and follow, your connection, your basic patterns. Now, what are the mistakes that they're going to make at the beginner level that drive you crazy? Trying to go too fast, too far ahead. There's a couple different things. Number one, jumping right from beginner class to intermediate class. Just because you can do these patterns, we find that just because you can remember these patterns, you get to intermediate class, you don't know them well enough. So I have a rule that he or she who takes the most beginner classes wins. So stay in beginner class. Even as you're trying intermediate, which you should do, you should keep taking beginner class because you'll really refine your techniques. Now that you don't have to think about all the basic stuff, Spend some time doing that. So skipping ahead is number one. Number two, dance. Dance a lot. Go to social dances and practice as much as possible. Practice on your own if you can.
For sure.
Especially
for leaders.
Especially for leaders, which leads me, we're going to talk about followers specifically as we move to the intermediate level in the next section. But the other thing is not being patient enough. Dancing is tricky and we have to be patient with it. So just because you went to 2 or 3 classes and you feel like you're not getting it, don't stress. My rule is 12 hours. Give me 12 hours, preferably inside of a month, and your dancing will change at the beginner level. But now let's talk about intermediate. As we move from beginner into the intermediate level, this is where I want to interject one of my biggest pieces of advice, and it's very specific to leaders and followers, and this is how we consume group classes. In the beginning, everything is overwhelming. The patterns, the lead, the follow, the music, it's really tricky. But as you get to the intermediate level, I want you to look at group classes differently. Here's the difference. As the leader, it's my job to understand not everything about it, but my job is to understand the concept of how I'm leading a pattern. So maybe even more important than the footwork is the concept. This is a basic reverse whip, but I could do this reverse whip on the wrong foot as long as anchor step. That's hard to do. I did that on the whole wrong foot. I was on the follower's footwork because I understood the concept of the pattern and where I needed to be. So that's what I want the leaders to focus on. Before we get into the patterns and techniques and mistakes, what do the followers need to focus on as they move to the intermediate level?
They need to actually know the pattern and know that that pattern exists.
Right, and the specific footwork for the pattern, because Megan can't do the pattern on the wrong foot. Maybe she can as a professional, she can cheat a little bit, but Megan, if she knows the reverse whip footwork, then as I add my leads, she's going to be able to do that. However, even though I was able to lead the reverse footwork, the reverse whip with the wrong footwork, but the right concepts, if she's on the wrong foot, it is not going to work. So followers, really understand your footwork, and Megan said this before, you want to know that these different types of patterns and these footworks exist. Footworks, feetworks.
Footworks?
Yeah.
Feetworks?
So speaking of patterns, things that you should focus on at the intermediate level. We already have our basics, push, pass, whip, tucks, basic turns. Now we're going to expand. So we're going to expand into things like, okay, I know a basic whip, but do I know a reverse whip? Because that's different footwork. The follower's turning a different way. If we can do a whip, can we do a hustle whip, which is now I don't have my hand on my partner. It's a different concept. Another thing you could do at the intermediate level is just simply do the same patterns you know, basic inside turn, but change hands. Same pattern you know with a different hand hold. So you want to get used to changing hands. You could even just do that. Just take the patterns you already know, change a hand, and see if you can lead it. That's going to be a really important skill. Then we want to introduce ourselves. If we have an inside turn, Megan's turning to her left, then we want to introduce something like an outside turn. Bingo. So that way, as the follower, getting to Megan's point about the footwork, it's a different skill set to turn outside versus inside. The other thing I think that you should be exposed to at the intermediate level, because this is what's going to unlock a lot of patterns, is something called a rock and go. So if I just did a sugar push, and then I did an inside turn, those are 2 basic patterns. If I do a rock and go in between, I do a sugar push, I take Megan, I rock her and pull her out into another pattern. So that's a concept that you'll start to see at the intermediate level that will let you link even basic patterns together. We did a whole video on the rock and go. You can watch that here. We go into detail. Techniques. You want to keep refining your technique of
connection,
lead and follow, right? So the things that you have already paid attention to, you want to just deepen your connection or your understanding of those connections of lead and follow. Can you be connected away and use the right hand? Things like that. So you want to keep expanding that. The other things that you should start to pay attention to are rolling through the feet. So in the beginning, we're just happy that we step on the right beat at the right time, and we're happy too. But then people will say, I don't feel like I'm dancing. So a lot of the dancing comes from rolling through your feet. So the idea that I'm rolling from the ball to my heel, or in Megan's case, the heel to the ball, and the same thing in reverse, where we're walking and moving through our feet. Real simple drill. Just trace your foot back or forward in this case, and then roll your weight slowly through your foot and roll slowly through the foot. If we reverse the other way, we roll slowly through the foot. This lets us not dance like we're blocks, right? If I dance this way, plunk, plunk, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, versus rolling through the feet, and you get a lot more dynamic, right? The other thing that you should probably start to become aware of, not that this is a big focus, is everyone wants to be musical. Here's the big key for musicality at the intermediate level. You have to start to count with the music, not the patterns. Here's what I mean. We just did this in another video. When I count my patterns, I'm dancing 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. But the music is going all the way to 8 and then all the way to 8. So if I'm counting the patterns, I'm kind of ignoring the music. If I count the music, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So not to get lost in the weeds, I want you to count the music while you're dancing. And just like when you counted the patterns and you had to keep that clock rolling in your head, it slowly goes away till you can just do it. Count the music in your head, slowly away, it will go away and you'll just be able to do it. Now, mistakes, biggest mistakes for leaders and followers. I'll take leaders first. What are the mistakes for the leaders, Megan?
They like to know all the patterns.
All the patterns. Here's a trick. Even at the highest level, we can only remember 6, 7, 8 moves at a time. Yeah. We've done 1,000 videos. I can still only remember 7 or 8 of them at a time. So don't be a move junkie. What I'd rather leaders do is, and this is why I didn't give you a comprehensive exact list of it must be these moves. If you like the hustle whip and you like this hustle whip, you should get really good at the hustle whip and you should learn a bunch of variations of the hustle whip, right? Because you can just keep expanding out your versions of the hustle whip. So instead of trying to learn every stupid move, get exposed to them, find the ones that kind of resonate with you and really master them and learn variations. That will keep you from being a move junkie. Followers have a completely different problem.
You have to dance on your own.
Yes. So you'll experience, well, if I dance with a good leader, I can dance.
Yeah.
And then I pull my partner around and I can get her to move because I'm really good at leading and I can get her to not move that foot and I can put her where I want her to go. But if I let go of Megan's hand in the middle and I say, dance a push, pass, and a whip on your own to the music, can you do it? So followers, understanding your footwork and moving on your own. Put a song on, literally just dance a push, pass, and a whip by yourself, and you'll find what happens is your footwork will shrink and you'll be over your foot more and more able to move. So next up, we'll talk about advanced dancers. Now, before we start talking about the patterns, techniques, and mistakes of advanced dancers, hopefully if you're watching this as a beginner or intermediate dancer, you can see what's in this advanced list and what you should and should not focus on at the beginner and intermediate levels. So at the advanced level for patterns, I don't know what moves you're going to do. I just want you to continue to expand your repertoire. But we said this in the earlier intermediate section that you really want to start to focus on a handful of moves that you can really be expressive with and control and dance with lots of different levels of dancers. So I'll give you, for instance, this is me going off the cuff. If I can learn a reverse whip, then I can learn a reverse whip with an opposite hand hold and a follower's rollout. Then I can really understand that move before I start to dance crazy advanced levels. So if I understand that pattern in that sequence and I understand the easiest version all the way to the hardest version, then in my pocket I have my set of moves, and it doesn't matter if I'm dancing with a beginner, intermediate, or a hotshot dancer, I have an ability to dance those moves with all sorts of different people. I really understand them. So in patterns, I want you to, at the advanced level, think about it that way. which is the same way I think you should be thinking of it from beginner to intermediate up to advanced. Now, techniques, what should we focus on at the advanced level, Miss Megan?
Styling.
Right, so this is where styling becomes a thing. And if you're an advanced dancer watching this, you probably already know it. And you might really understand that the mistake you made was trying to add styling in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right, because we see it, you know, the beginners, they're dancing sugar pushes and they're like doing all their styling.
Not me.
And it looks, Megan didn't have that problem. I had that problem because I wanted to be really good. But you should focus on the fundamental techniques first of rolling through the feet, being connected, that type of stuff, and your styling will come out of that. But at the advanced level, you do want to take workshops and watch videos to learn how the body might move and some different options and variations you can make.
Learn how to move your body before you put it in there.
Exactly. Line dancing is great. I'm going to do a video on line dancing. It's going to be on the other channel.
Yeah.
You don't even know this. It's on the list.
I looked at it.
You did look at it. All right, so this is also where we expand our musicality. And we talked about the intermediate level. Now we can start to add the styling and musicality. We're counting straight eights. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Where we can start to really play, because now we're developing some skills of styling. And then when we are using our musicality, it actually looks like something.
Yeah.
But now, my favorite is the mistakes that advanced dancers tend to make. And I am putting this here, not even for the advanced dancers. It's for you, the beginner and intermediates, to not make these mistakes. So number 1 was?
Not dancing to your partner's level. And that means leaders and followers.
Ooh. Yeah, tell me about the followers first before I go riffing on the leaders.
So followers, you might know tricks and stuff like that, where you drop and where you do different spins or whatever else. If you're dancing with a lower level dancer, they're not going to expect that. Your butt might hit the floor.
Yes, so that is good because I had that in my idea list, right? So how we do these types of things, and we get to this position, everyone on the internet goes, into that position.
Not that position.
I've had a bad back for a good long time, and what happened was, I'm a pretty good dancer. I would go dance with these advanced level dancers, and because they knew that advanced move, they knew how to do this, they would immediately be diving into this, and I'm unprepared. Rather than understanding the technique of it all the way through, I'll do it from this hand, right? Rather than understanding that Megan's connected away from me and that if I leave her there, she stays and she only comes into that when I pull her in, and she only comes out when I send her out. Obviously, the dancers, they do it with all their styling and all that stuff, but...
Bad Backs Club over here.
Yes, so followers, that's a great point. I forgot to add that. Leaders, we talked about it before, not dancing to your partner's level. So before I dance that trick with my partner, I want to see, can Megan do an outside turn? Okay, she can do an outside turn. And we dance around and we do some basic stuff, and then I see, can she do a duck? Okay, she can do a duck, and I'm leveling it up, right? Then I'm going to see how well she's connecting to my hand. Okay, now I've kind of identified, because I'm dancing to my partner's level. Let's say that Megan didn't. She struggled with this outside turn. Well, what good am I going to do leading a duck? Or maybe Megan spins like a top, right? But when I do a duck, it feels like she's going to get whacked in the head. So during a dance, you're kind of assessing your partner so that you're choosing patterns that your partner is comfortable with. So the other one, my last final thing, is advanced dancers having a beginner's mindset. You should be able to go into any class with any level teacher, even if you're a better dancer, and find something in that class that you can take away. Instead of looking at the lower level dancers critically, you should be looking at them, finding out what you can learn from them, what you can learn from other teachers. So at the advanced level, having a beginner's mindset, because I always say there's 4 levels of dancing: beginner, intermediate, advanced, and the 4th level is understanding your beginner stuff. All right, if you're still watching this, you're my kind of person, and I think we should be friends. Here's how I think we should be friends. Head on over to westcoastswingonline.com. I'll drop the link right here. enter your email address on the first page, and you'll be able to sign up for a free membership, no credit card required, to our website. But better than that, you'll be on our Move of the Week list, where we send out an email every week with our favorite tips and techniques for West Coast swing. You can see where we are in the country, and if you have a question, you can email us directly and maybe get your topic for video on the YouTube channel again soon. West Coast Swing Online, right there, enter your email address on the front page, and we'll talk to you soon.